Saga Cigars, makers of the Saga Golden Age. The Golden Age is a cigar that takes you back to the classic days of cigar smoking. Through the 6 generations of experience by the Reyes family, the Saga Golden Age delivers a timeless blend that uses the nobility of the tobacco to bring you the perfect balance of power and flavor. It narrates better than words the history of a family's tradition in tobacco, delivering a cigar much like the ones they used to smoke in the times of Hemingway. Saga Golden Age is a full-bodied, full-flavored Dominican Puro. With tobaccos from one farm, the blend features a Corojo 2006 wrapper and filler from original Cuban seeds grown in the Dominican Republic. Available in 4 sizes at an affordable price, the Saga Golden Age is sure to please and take you back on a journey to yesteryear. By Rocky Patel Premium Cigars, the sun-grown Maduro is hand-rolled at Rocky Patel's boutique factory in Esteli, Nicaragua. This triple-capped, hand-bunched, and hand-rolled cigar is accompanied by a gorgeous broadleaf wrapper. Well-balanced, rich, and decadent, it truly is a great addition to any humidor and worthy of bearing the long-respected sun-grown name. For more information, visit them on the web at rockypatel.com and be sure to follow Rocky Patel Premium Cigars on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Welcome back, everyone, to Stogie Geeks Show. Well, I want to cover the news about the Cuban thing.
Okay.
First, I know we talked about it on news, Stogie Geeks News.
Yeah, no, I think it's good we talk about it. I have some thoughts on it, too, since we did that.
Yeah, since we've covered it when it was the news first broke, I've seen a lot of news articles, and they are twisting the headlines to say that, well, the Cuban embargo's been lifted, or like some variation that would lead people to believe that they can go into a store and buy Cuban cigars. And they do that because it's kind of like the whole clickbait, social media thing.
There's been more misinformation about this since the day one when it first. I mean, it's since it was released that you could even bring them back from Cuba $100 worth. I mean, it's crazy because it's a headline. So
and everyone who's not in the cigar industry comes up to you and is like, "Oh, well, it must be interesting now that you can get Cuban cigars, legally."
I mean, the retailers are probably going nuts because everybody just thinks they're
retailers taking the brunt of it, right? I mean, people come up to Will and I, right, like friends that know him in the cigars business, and they're like, "Yeah, so you can get Cuban," and I can't imagine that the retailers. And I've seen the post on Facebook too, and I made a post with a pleading to my Facebook followers, like, just read this first before you go asking and bugging our poor cigar retailers of the world, who are going nuts with this, Will.
Yeah, well, and I agree they're going nuts now. They're unhappy about this period. They're very unhappy. And I understand their point of view. I think their concern is this, that now you can't, now basically there's a way for cigars to come into the country that are not regulated. So they have a valid argument with that.
It is a valid argument.
I've heard people are really worried this is going to impact their business. I'm not a retailer, so I don't want to say. I would say if I'm a retailer and once the embargo is lifted and people can buy cigars in the gray market overseas, whether it's Cuban or not Cuban, that's when I'd be worried. Right now, I think now is not the time to worry yet.
Speaking of the taxes, my good friend Victor Cartier, he's a fellow podcaster. Him and I were podcasting back in 2005. I think he since is doing some different things other than podcasting, but he's a cigar enthusiast. He sent me a link that was basically talked about the tax and tariffs that you would pay if you were to bring cigars back into the country, and they don't look too bad, Will. And we were speculating about that on Stogie Geeks News, and I wanted to upgrade everyone to say that large cigars, I want to say, small cigars are $50 for 1,000 units and $1 for a pack of 20, and 40 cents each for a large cigar.
Yeah, and I heard basically you can bring up to 100.
Okay, so there is a cap on it.
And then it falls under your $800 duty-free exemption, which I guess is something that goes every 30 to 31 days.
Okay, so you can bring back, without paying any additional tax, up to $800.
That's or 100 cigars.
Or 100 cigars.
Right.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Which still, I mean, that's not a lot of cigars, to be honest.
Let me put it like
you're still
this.
talking about like 100 cigars is what? I mean, 4 boxes, and you're still under the 800. Even if they're really expensive ones, you're probably still under $800.
I mean, that's what it looked like to me. It was 4 boxes. If I was in Cuba, I would have came back with 4 boxes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would have, when I was down there, I couldn't come back with 4 boxes. But so I think we should just clarify the point that the embargo affects commerce. Okay, so meaning commerce, you can't sell them in the U.S., you can't distribute them in the U.S. Right? So that's what the embargo covers. This is a personal. This is, hey, I'm going somewhere, and personally, I can bring these back.
Right.
And the $100 limit, that was strictly for Cuba. Now this is for any place overseas.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
and those that have bought cigars when they've traveled like that, know they're pretty expensive. Hence my recommendations to my friends about the Cuban sandwich, basically, is the ones they should buy. Because they're pretty expensive. Even when you went to Cuba, well, I mean, how were the prices? If you were to buy 4 boxes, like, how were the prices?
At La Casa del Habano, they're actually very competitive.
Okay.
So in general, I would say the prices are analogous to what you would see here for equivalent type of cigars.
Okay.
I was looking at a jar of H. Upmann's, which was probably, I want to say it was between $150 and $200 in a nice ceramic jar.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to bring back, but it was over the $100 limit. And knowing my luck,
you would have been the one audited.
Yeah, and it turned out they didn't even check I'm wearing cigar paraphernalia. They didn't even check me when I came in.
That's fun.
It's now I think what's going to happen is you're going to see probably more fakes come in than real stuff.
Absolutely. There's going to be more fakes.
Yeah, and if you watch our Cuba videos we did, I talk specifically about if you go to Cuba, you want to go to the La Casa del Habanos. That's where you're going to know you're getting legitimate stuff at a fair price.
And those are available worldwide, those stores will.
Right. There's La Casa del Habanos is a worldwide retail chain, and they do exist in Havana as well.
Gotcha.
Great. And I've been to ones in Canada. Is the only other place I've been to them.
Yeah, so conceivably you can go to Canada, buy a few boxes, and bring it back.
Yeah, I would say if you're a retailer in Detroit and you can go over the border of the Windsor, I'd probably be concerned. And
I think there are isolated cases like that where it will make a difference.
Yeah, or if I'm in Seattle and I can go over the border to Surrey and just south of Vancouver. So, yeah, I think there's some isolated cases, but in general...
But I think, too, Will, the person that is going to take advantage of this and go out of their way to purchase Cuban cigars is likely someone like us that is doing the Stogie Geeks, or people listening who are Stogie Geeks, that we're still going to buy all the other cigars as well. Which is now maybe it's a little easier for us to go purchase some Cuban cigars, but it's not like that's all we smoke. I think the people who will only seek out Cuban cigars are probably pretty small and probably not going to frequent your retail shop anyway.
Right.
I would agree with that too.
And they're not going to buy. And the people who want it for forbidden fruit are not big cigar consumers to begin with.
Right.
Now, I think So I mean, I think the retailers are selling themselves a little short too. We have some of the best. In the cigar market, there's some really creative retailers. They've done creative events, creative types of promotions over the years. Don't sell yourself short. You guys are going to be fine. You guys are really good at what you do. So,
well, and I said in my Facebook post too, like I've had lots of great cigars from all different countries of origin, Cuban cigars included, non-Cuban cigars included. Like it's not all just about where the cigar comes from. Like, yeah, have I had some great Cuban cigars? Yeah. Have I had some great Dominican or mixture of all of it? Well, yeah. And that's not really what it's about. And I think it's going to take a lot of work to change that perception, as time goes on. And it'll be interesting to see if we do get a full lift on the embargo, what happens. And I think there's going to be some changes in the industry, but I really, truly believe those are going to be largely temporary. I think people are going to realize some things as they smoke. It's going to take time to change people's perception, but they're going to realize
short term, it's going to be an impact.
Short term, it's going to really, I think, suck for the cigar industry in general.
Well, what I was saying before is because of the fact that these are not products that were introduced to the market, they're going to be unregulated. So that's where I see when the embargo is lifted, if these don't have a way to get into the U.S., that's going to create a huge gray market.
Yes.
And that's where, if I was a retailer, that's the part that's going to keep me up at night a lot more.
I agree.
Yeah, this is not going to keep me up at night, but that part, and in general, getting any cigar, it's going to keep me up at night.
Mm-hmm.
So not just a Cuban.
All right. Well, let's talk about our Stogies of the week, Will. I want to start with the Mi Querida, because we both had one in there.
I did it last week, actually. Yeah, absolutely.
And you didn't do one this week, too?
I didn't do one this week, no.
Oh, I have one in there twice. That's my bad. So I smoked you smoked the Mi Querida Onco Largo, and that's the Toro size, the one that I really like.
The 6x52.
Yes.
I think it's an amazing cigar. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, it's just as far as an everyday smoking cigar. I mean, this one has worked its way into my rotation. And Steve Saka and I we were talking on Facebook, and he was like, that really actually says a lot, because not every cigar makes it into every smoker's regular rotation. And that was his vision with his cigars, is to get it into people's rotation like that. And that one certainly does for me. Now, it's interesting, Will, are you having a tough time finding these cigars?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Oh yeah. I could say that the first batches went very fast in Charlotte, and the second batches have just started to come in now.
Yeah. Because I really want to buy a box, and I just couldn't find one. So I've been trying the other sizes. I smoked the Fino Largo, which I think is, and we've talked extensively about this cigar, so it's very similar characteristics in a slightly smaller size. Is it a 6x48 in the Fino Largo?
Yeah, yep.
And that ring gauge change, it makes it a little more intense, and it feels a little more bold. Did you experience that too in this size, Will?
More bold, a little more spice I get up that as well. Still get that Steve calls it the danky kind of, I call it kind of this wet musty, and I don't mean that in a negative, but it's kind of this wet dank. Dank's the best word to put it. So, but there's a little more spice, I thought, on that 48.
Yeah, it's a little more bold.
I don't know if dank's the best.
Yeah, dank's not necessarily the best.
It's not exactly an appetizing way
to. It is a very good cigar. I would call this one box worthy. The Onco Largo for me would be Fight Chuck Norris in the rating system.
We are in sync on that.
Because I would age the Fino Largo a little longer. I would smoke it later on in the day, later on at night. The reason that I think the larger size, the Onco Largo and the Toro, get a higher rating is that it's a more versatile smoke. Like, I can smoke it in the beginning of the day or to the end of the day, and like I'm still enjoying it, and it doesn't put itself in any category. Like, it's just a great smoking cigar. And I find myself reaching for them all the time. I'm smoking when I should be reviewing, like I'm smoking these cigars, and I'm like, this is really bad. I'm not reviewing because I'm just smoking these cigars because they're so smokable.
Yeah, and if you smoke, especially if you smoke, I found in the Largo, the Onco Largo, it's one of those cigars that if you sit back and really see what it has, it's gonna have a little more complexity than you think it has.
Yes.
So there was a lot. I thought there was more going on. I heard people say it wasn't the most complex cigar. If you kind of sit back,
there's complexity there, absolutely, and that's a broadleaf wrapper, right?
It's a broadleaf wrapper over Old Nicaraguan.
It's very good.
I agree.
I have to agree. It's got broadleaf on it, so
that's right. Yeah, no, it's a very good broadleaf offering.
Steve,
yeah, I agree.
Alrighty, well, what else you got on your list?
So, sticking in the broadleaf genre, we've smoked a lot of debonaires on this show, and what we haven't, what's surprising, when I went through the Stogie feed, we really haven't talked a lot about the debonair Robustos.
No, we haven't smoked a lot of that size.
It just seems like we've smoked probably all the other sizes, but the Robusto we haven't talked about. So I had a few debonair Maduro Robustos I went through over the last week, and I'll tell you what. Now, the one thing I looked at with these cigars is what Phil does on the back of the band is he stamps that date on it.
Mm-hmm.
So after I smoked each of them, I pulled off the band, obviously, and I wanted to look at what the date is, and they were both from July of 2015. So these had about a year of age on them since they were rolled. And I'll tell you what, the Robusto is a great size, is what I'll just say. I don't know if it tops the Bellicoso or the A, which are my two favorites in the Maduro line, but I think I actually like it better than the Toro, this Robusto. Just, again, it has all the characteristics, that good Connecticut broadleaf sweetness is in it. It has a little bit of that debonair meatiness in it. Maybe not as much of the meatiness as in the Habano, It's got some kick. You know, the Debbie Maduros have some kick to them.
They do.
They're almost full strength, full bodied cigars when you smoke them. I gave this one a box worthy. I think this was. I think, like I said, the Robusto's a little underrated. I think, especially in the Maduro.
I mean, I like smoking the whole line.
They do.
I mean, you work very closely with Phil. I mean, the whole line is just each one has its own qualities, and it's really amazing what he's done.
I mean, the broadleaf line, all of it is. Again, I'm a little biased with broadleaf, but phenomenal smokes. The A especially, that's a great smoke. I haven't had a lot of those, but it's it's a great smoke.
I have a box of. There's like 9 left in my box at home, maybe 8. And it's just wonderful to know.
You gotta have time. I think Phil could power smoke it in probably 20 minutes. But
he is a power smoker. He is.
Yeah.
That's why he's coming with these larger sizes. And I'm like, where do you find the time? And then I watch him smoke one. I'm like, that's how he finds the time.
He can smoke an A in about the same time we can smoke one of the first degree.
Yeah.
A normal smoker.
And I love the first degree. And speaking of which, in both wrappers, it's very similar to what you've done, Chris, right? Both ones that I've smoked in the Habano and the Maduro are very, very good. And I wouldn't pick one over the other. It would just be a matter of what I'm in the mood for or the time of day.
Different time of day, sure.
And that's really what Phil's line has done too, right? They're both very enjoyable. It's just a matter of what you're in the mood for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
this one's very good. I haven't ashed this thing once.
Yeah, and I know Phil's a sponsor, but I'll say that is the best A cigar ever made.
I agree.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And I have an A-size large Diadema from Camacho that we did a shorts on. I put that in there because I wanted it to be in the Stogies feed, Will.
I'm glad you did, yeah.
Well, because there's not a lot of people that have ever talked about this cigar, really.
So that was, I had heard that that description. That was with the foil on it, or no? That's the one
with the foil on it. You've done some work with Christian in the past.
I did. We still have a line that,
you do with Camacho today,
yeah,
right?
It's made by Davidoff now in the Camacho factory, basically, yeah.
Yeah. So this was, when did this one come out, Will? Was it 2000?
I don't think we determined it other than we knew it was, I think it was at least 12 to 14 years old.
Yeah, this is an older release from Camacho. This is their old Camacho Corojo line, and it's in a Diadema. It's like a really big Salomon that comes in the foil, as you described, Chris. I really wanted to smoke this cigar when it first came out because I smoked it with 12 or 14. Speaking of smoking vintage cigars, this one just didn't do it for me today. And it was one of those cases where I wish I had a time machine and I could go back in time and smoke it when it first came out because I'm sure it was awesome.
You talk about a time machine, even when we're talking about the Cubans that I found. I mean, to go back to see how much flavor was still in that now, I couldn't even imagine what it was like to smoke back in the day.
Out, right.
Actually, I texted Christian maybe a month ago or so. I had found some more boxes of, and I had some. We went on a Camacho cruise one time, and I had a couple of those cigars and some of the old, I think it was the Diplomas, unbanded. They were unbanded anyways. But I just found a bunch of stuff that I had made that I had just gotten when I was down at the factory with him, and it's neat to go back and smoke them. But definitely they were incredibly strong cigars back in the day. But I find they
age. This one did not age so well, unfortunately.
I remember you said that, yeah.
Vintage Camacho usually smokes awesome. Like you were saying, you had those Diplomas.
Right.
I find those with age smoke awesome. I mean, you can go back in our Stogies feed, and there are some vintage Camacho that I've smoked. And when we interviewed Christian, it was one of the reasons why I was so excited to interview Christian, because I'm like, dude, I've smoked so much of your vintage stuff, and it's been some of the best vintage stuff I've ever smoked in my life.
Started off so strong. I mean, they were just, they were in your face strong. So, I mean, it was,
with time, it just, oof.
Yeah.
I smoked them all.
Definitely
it was an old,
aged well.
1105. I don't know if that was in the Diploma series of the Corojo.
Is it 05 series. Or 18? 1118 or was it 1105?
An 1105. Yeah.
So which size was that? That was
it was a regular Parejo, right up to the end, and when it kind of did one of those.
It narrowed at the foot then.
It narrowed at the foot, and they called it the 1105. Yeah. That was just one of the first vintage cigars that I had smoked, even from Camacho, and it was awesome. So it's interesting. There's a lot of history with some of our retailers that are close here in Rhode Island. So I've had the privilege to smoke a lot of the older stuff. Unfortunately, this one just didn't do it for me, but I'm sure one of our listeners would chime in and say, hey, I smoked that when it first came out, and it was awesome.
I smoked, when I looked that up, I remember on the shorts, the first couple of minutes, I thought it was good, but
Yes.
normally a cigar will sometimes run out of gas. This ran out of gas like within the first third.
Yes.
And it just
that's
went
a sign
flat.
that it's really just it has aged out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm sure from how it started, that cigar was a very good cigar when it came out.
Yeah.
And I love the Corojo line, so that's an
absolutely.
epic line.
Absolutely. Back to you, Will.
All right, so this is another cigar that incorporates broadleaf into the blend, but it's not a broadleaf wrapper cigar. It's from Black Label Trading Company, and it's called the Bishop's Blend. And this was a new release they had at the trade show. And what this blend has, it has a Ecuadorian Maduro wrapper, an Ecuadorian Habano binder, and it's got filler of both Pennsylvania broadleaf, Connecticut broadleaf, and Nicaraguan filler. It's a really kind of when I put up the Stogie feed, it's kind of an artisan-looking cigar. It's a Robusto I smoke, but it has kind of it's not a Bellicoso, but it has this chip, this tip that looks like a chocolate chip or a Hershey's Kiss.
Which one is this, Will?
It's called the Bishop's Blend. It's a new cigar from Black Label Trading Company.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had them on the show a couple of times. And I've liked some of the Black Label Trading Company stuff. For the most part, I've been waiting for that breakout cigar from them. So I smoked a couple of these, and I'm like, this is really, really, really good. I mean, so I smoked, and I'm like, I thought, when you smoke this thing, you could taste some of the sweetness from the Connecticut broadleaf and the filler. You could taste a little bit of that earth and mineral component, maybe from the Pennsylvania broadleaf. It seemed like that they put a Habano binder, which Steve Saka tells me a lot of times they do that more for combustion as opposed for flavor. That's what I remember hearing. So I think they were trying to amplify the fillers. So I'm like, this thing, I was like, this is unbelievable. I actually put the Chuck Norris rating on it. And I was like, when I started looking at some of the other reviews of this cigar, I wasn't alone. Mm-hmm. This cigar has garnered some and I do have extras.
But I like how you read the reviews after you smoke it.
You can't read the reviews before you smoke it because it influences you.
The only thing I will do, Will, is I will go, before I smoke something, maybe find a review that talks about the strength level, just so I can gauge, like, time of day, what I've eaten, kind of thing, so I don't get sick.
To know when to smoke it.
To know when to smoke it. That's the only thing I'll do. Then after I smoke it, I'll go read the reviews.
Now, when we do stuff on the show, sometimes you're going to smoke stuff before me. It's going to happen sometimes, right?
Right.
But what I won't do is I won't go back and watch that segment until afterwards.
Right.
Kind of
right.
Here. So, I mean, I pulled the Chuck Norris rating on this. It is
nice.
I was real. I mean, this is the breakout cigar that I think I was looking for.
Yeah, because I mean, James makes awesome stuff, but you're right. Like I was too waiting for that, like, really true breakout cigar from them.
This is, I believe. I mean, I'll say it. Even I looked at the half wheel reading; they gave it a 94. So, I don't always agree with them, but the fact is, they obviously saw something with this cigar too. So, that was a little bit of validation. I gave it a 93 on mine, but a Chuck Norris rating is nothing to slouch about either.
No, that's really good.
Yeah.
I smoked a La Polina Red Label. Have you smoked this, Will? I think you sent this to me from some sample.
Yeah, it's a cigar. So that's one of the cigars they came out with last year at the show. I think I got some of them this year at the show, and it's made by PDR.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, this was a good cigar. I really like the flavors. The wrapper is really... And what does the wrapper binder fill in this? Do you know off the top of your head what the Red Label is, Will?
I believe it's a Habano wrapper on that, and I can look that up real quick.
And it's interesting. From La Polina, it's a pretty bold offering. Like, there was a lot going on in this cigar. Like, the strength and the body is really amped up from an offering from La Polina. I'm assuming they did that on purpose.
I kind of thought it was medium plus.
Yeah, I would put it medium plus, but I put the other La Polinas less on the strength and body kind of profile.
Couple of exceptions, but yeah. Actually, this is a Habano wrapper, Ecuadorian binder, Dominican, Nicaraguan filler. Yeah, I mean, I heard people saying this was a mild offering last year. I didn't think it was a mild offering.
No, I didn't think so either.
Yeah.
It had some punch to it, which I liked. I liked where they put the strength and body on this one. It was nice to see La Polina come out with something with as much body as this one had. I thought it was a good cigar. It had some nice flavors. I rated it a 5. That's
about where I'd put it.
Okay.
That's about where I would put it. I thought it was a solid. I thought it was a solid cigar. It's a cigar that you could have. It's a cigar that you can have pretty much it could be a rotation cigar to have a few of those around. I thought it was solid. Yeah. So I gave
Yeah,
it that.
it's kind of, we talk about some cigars that are like, it's not what I'd smoke all the time, but it's not like I don't have any constructive criticism for it. Like, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Like, I'd smoke it every once in a while. And I think that's where our 5-hour rating goes,
Yep.
in our rating scale. And that's where the red label was from La Polina for me. What's the price point on this, Will?
Yeah, I want to say it's like about $7 range.
Okay, that's not too bad.
It's not that expensive. The red and the black label, which both come out of PD, and the classic are they're meant, they're not up in that Goldie price range or family series price range, so they're more affordable.
Yeah, La Polina is a brand for me where I don't know. I struggle to find my favorite one.
When they came, and there's actually a piece I'm working on for Cigar-Coop, which it's in progress. When they first relaunched, they actually went to the Bahamas and they made their cigars out of Grey Cliff.
Yeah.
And the first release of those cigars were incredible.
I remember people raving about them.
And then they went downhill.
Interesting.
I mean, they nosedived. And to a point where actually at the show I said something to Bill Paley, and he kind of confirmed. He said, yeah, we're ending production on it. He couldn't get the quality back to where it was. And it was an expensive cigar. Those family series out of the Bahamas were in the $18 to $23 range. They were not cheap.
I remember them at both local retail shops here. They were like flying off the shelves when they first came out.
Yep. Then they came out with some more. Yeah. Then they came out with some more affordable offerings. But yeah, in general, those were very high end offerings.
Interesting. What else you got, Will?
This is, I'd say, another. I smoked another Skinny Monster, and this is the Skinny Wolf. Based off the Wolfman blend in the Monster series. So, the interesting is there's been now they have all these iterations of the Monsters.
Yeah.
The Wolfman and all the little Wolfie and the Pudgy Wolf, they were all box pressed bellicosos or box pressed torpedoes with a shagged foot. This is a Petite Lancero that's rounded, no shagged foot. And in general, I've had mixed reactions with the Monsters. There's some that I've liked. Like last week, I was talking about the Mummy. I really liked the Mummy. There was some I just didn't like I didn't really like the Hyde or the Jason. So it's been kind of a mixed bag. But the Wolfman's always been one of those consistent monsters. I've liked it in every format. And in my opinion, it was the most... If I had to pick a Halloween cigar that had that Halloween profile, this one of all the Monsters has it.
I was just going to say, we're heading back to the Halloween talk here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A little bit, it had a little bit of an orange rye note to it. Solid cigar. I think this blend worked well in the Petite Lancero, probably. And now they're selling these in 25 count boxes as well.
I was going to ask you that, Will, because I recently bought a box of the Skinny Monsters.
Right.
And the Pudgy Monsters.
Right.
And I went back and I smoked the Tiff because I like that blend. I was looking for something new and different to smoke in the morning, and I was like, I'll go back to that. I wasn't really wowed by either size.
See, I liked it in the Pudgy, and I did not like it in the Skinny.
Yeah,
I was not wowed by it.
I've got a couple more to smoke before like the final verdict is out, because you can buy these now in 25 count boxes, correct?
Yeah. And I tell you, the Wolf is solid enough. It's worth a box split in my book. I think it's the Wolfman blend is probably in my top 3 of the Monster blends. I mean, it's a really good blend, and it actually I didn't know if it was going to work in a rounded Petite Lancero. It did. I was surprised.
So the boxes that you can buy, are those only in the skinny size?
Only in the skinny size.
Interesting. Okay.
And they look like the boxes that the Petite Lanceros and Black Label came in.
Okay.
So it's those kind of upright boxes with the square top.
Yeah.
I guess yeah.
Interesting.
But I thought this was one of the better ones. Yeah, this was.
Yeah, I smoked some Tiff this week in the Pudgy and the Skinny, and I wasn't like overly impressed. I thought I thought that the Skinny Tiff was better than the Pudgy Tiff. Which is weird, because it was the opposite when they first came out.
I was the opposite. I said I thought the Pudgy was much better.
And I don't know if it's age that's played into this whole thing, but it's weird to go back and smoke them now, because I think a lot of us are going back and smoking all this Monster Series stuff to see, like, if I want to buy a box of 25, like, where am I going to put my money, right? Like, if I had to pick one box, what's it going to be? So.
Yeah, and I literally went backwards through the box, so I'm going right to left.
Yeah.
Like youngest to oldest. So the TIFF was one of the first ones I smoked. So it had the least amount of age on it. So again, if I had smoked, ideally, if I would be reviewing these, I probably should have reviewed them all in 1 week. But, that's just not practical. So, as I'm getting to some of these other ones, like the Mummy was really good. Skinny Mummy was good. And now the Skinny Wolf I thought was really good. So that may be factoring into it too. That's why I want to go back and smoke these again afterwards.
Now, have you smoked the new black, Tatuaje Black, in all the different sizes?
I smoked actually the Grand Toro. I liked it. It wasn't quite up to it wasn't near, look, the Corona Gorda, I think, is still the belle of the ball with that. But I did smoke that big Grand Toro, and I did like it. I'd probably put it as a 5er, though, as opposed to as high as that Corona Gorda, but it was still a good cigar.
Gotcha.
Have you smoked it yet?
No, I want to try those different sizes.
Yeah, they are out.
I hoard those jars, man. Like that Corona Gorda is just... And it's interesting, we talk about perception and what people think of certain cigars. I hear people talking, and they're like, oh, I don't like Tatuaje. I'm like, really? Of all the releases in Tatuaje, like, you can't find one.
There's got to be something there.
That you like. Like, that means you just smoked, like, 1, maybe 2 blends at most, instead of, I don't like Tatuaje. And that's a pet peeve we have here in the Stogie Geeks. Like, tisk, shame on you. Like, don't ever do that. Like, unless you've smoked every different size and every different offering, you can't say that you don't like a particular manufacturer, especially one that has as many facings as Tatuaje.
Oh, absolutely. I would totally, agree. Like, again, that would apply to any brand, unless they just have one cigar.
Right.
And when I mean one cigar, one size.
Right.
I mean, how many times have you and I gone,
No, I mean, I think that's I think in general, I think there's so many good things out there today. I mean, there's unlike in the boom when there was a lot of cigars that really weren't. I mean, you could really criticize. I don't think there's really. I mean, you may not like the taste, you may not like the whatever that offering is, but I mean, I think that the cigars are so much better today than they were even 10 years ago. I think they really are.
It's interesting. We had a comment, in the chat room saying the monsters have tanked since the Wolf from Tor. I can agree with that. They haven't. I think there have been some better ones, but there were some epic ones very early on. I mean, Frank and Face are probably 2 of the epic ones we talk about.
Yeah, the Face when it first came out was really good, and it's probably still good to this day. I've got some kicking around in my humidor too. Have you tried the Kruger yet, while we're on the monster topic?
I haven't gotten it yet.
Okay. I haven't gotten it yet either.
I haven't. I think they're starting to just arrive at shops right now. I've seen a few of them. When I have my weekly conference call with Stogie Center, I'm sure I'm going to get... I'll have to check in on that, yeah. We've established kind of this weekly conference call where we review our cigars. Yeah.
So I smoked an Avo Classic No. 2 Toro, and... I don't know. I typically don't like to talk about some of the ways I get like deals on cigars, but like I got a really good deal on this cigar.
Hey, it is what it is. We're honest here.
Exactly. It is what it is. Look, I went online. I bought a box of these. I paid about $4 a cigar for an Avo Classic No. 2 Toro. And this has the new band on it. And these cigars are awesome. Like, this is a box-worthy cigar. Like, they're great to smoke. Why they were online for $4 a cigar, I don't know. All I know is I'm glad to be the one to find it and take it off your hands for $4 a cigar. Now, when I look at FDA, my prediction, and this is just me like shaking the magic 8-ball, like my prediction is that we're all going to be okay, and one of the side effects that I think is going to impact the consumer is probably going to be slightly higher prices. That's just me. You can agree or disagree. So when I see some of these premium cigars online, and there's a discount, and not just online, believe me, I went to my local retail shops in the past couple of months too, spent a lot of money on stuff that they were closing out. And it's not because those cigars are bad. It just means they weren't moving in their particular market, or they had 5 or 10 boxes left. These are not the hot, latest, greatest things, so let's close them out at 40% off. I'm happy to take them off your hands. Like, there are some great cigars in the closeout at local retailers, as well as online. So I did some shopping lately. This was one of the ones I came across, Will, and this is a fantastic cigar. It's perfect, like mild to medium body, has a ton of flavor. And to get a Toro size, which is a lot of smoking time on these cigars, Will, for $4 was just so worth it for me. So,
Was this?
If you
was
need
this
help
old
finding a $4,
Toro? I mean, was this the old one or the new one?
this is had the new
New
band
one.
on it.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, if you need help finding a good $4 cigar, I can find you a couple.
There you go. And it's funny, Chris, when you were saying
Out
that
of the
before,
same out of the Davidoff factory. So
yeah, when you were saying that
it's
before, I'm
different.
like, I want to smoke more of the topper stuff because I haven't smoked a lot of the stuff at that price point. So,
I mean, the difference is that, obviously that's long filler. I still use a mixed fill on some of the product that comes out of the Davidoff factory. I have a long filler too, but, we use the...
is that the Rosedale? or
No,
other one?
the Dan Lee line, the Topper Dan Lee. It's made in the Camacho factory.
Okay.
So that's Connecticut broadleaf wrapper with Corojo binder and filler.
Okay.
I gotta try that one. That's an interesting blend.
So
I'll see if we can procure a couple from Chris before he leaves.
Yeah.
We'll review them on the show. How about that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
sounds good.
Yeah, and I like mixing that, mixing in the $4 cigars with the $20 cigars. And actually on closeout, Will, I found some $20 cigars that were on sale for $10. And I'm still not buying a whole box. Although if they had a whole box, I probably would have. Hirochi Rabena, the HR Toro.
Wow.
That's a $21 cigar. It's 40% off. I'm at least buying 5, like maybe a whole box. Like but even at that discount, that's still an expensive cigar.
Look at
Well,
$12,
and at some
$20
point,
left.
it's going to be difficult to find. Let's face it. Depending on how FDA falls, how it all unfolds, there's going to be it's going to be a difficult market to have inexpensive cigars, especially with new cigars. They have to come to product, and they're going to come to market. They're going to be a lot more expensive due to all the costs that are
Right.
incurred. So, not me, but I think anyone that has a good value line is going to have. I think there's going to be growth in that market, and that's kind of what I'm excited about too. Because, the bulk of my product is inexpensive. So I think there's always a market for value, and again, that's why we're celebrating our 120th anniversary. So
Yeah, and I like smoking the $4 or $5 cigar that I'm like, wow, that was really good. And then for a point of comparison, I'm like, yeah, I like smoking the 20, 40, 50. I mean, we had Gurkha, representative from Gurkha on the show. They make a $3,000
like $2,000 or $3,000,
$2,000 or $3,000 cigar. And like, yeah, okay, there's differences, but to find premium cigars at that $4 price point to me is exciting. But also have the opportunity to smoke some of the other ones. It just gives you a point of reference, and that's why we have the show, is to give you that point of reference. But to work things into my regular, smoking rotation. I haven't sold my first startup for, $500 million or whatever yet. So I can't afford to smoke $2,000 cigars yet. Like to think I'm optimistic. Hopefully get there someday. But for now, there's a lot of value in the lower price cigars. And they're not all good, which is why I like to smoke lots of different ones, and it's fun. So,
Yeah. I do think, Paul, you were talking about price increase. I think what you're going to see happen, though, and I'm going to go ahead about 14 months to January 2018, as we start to get close to the point where this stuff has to be basically get the FDA approval. There's all this stuff entering the market, and it's going to be post-Christmas. You're going to start to see you're going to see a big drop, I think, around that time, where you're going to be able to get some really good deals on stuff.
wait, say that again. So why will there be a price decrease?
Well, so there's a lot of stuff being introduced to market right now. There's just stuff entering the market, right? These inventories are growing, right? But not all this stuff is eventually going to be able to stay on the market because they have to basically get substantial equivalence, and they're going to have to pay the cost with that. So there's going to be stuff removed from the market, and there's going to be retailers who have inventory that are going to be looking to get rid of this stuff.
Now, when you say removed from the market, is there going to be a date which they can't sell it? In other words,
Yeah. It's in 2018. I think it's.
So either they're going to have to sell it or eat it.
the product's going to have to come off the shelves.
It's going to literally have to come off the shelf. So you're going to see, I think, in early 2018, you're probably going to be able to get some of the best deals you're ever going to get, because the stuff has to come off the shelf. I mean, you'll probably see, and then after that, I think there'll be an increase again in price.
I got you.
And you'll see. I mean, even at next year's trade show, I mean, that's going to be going into that selling season. So whatever's not going to be maintained in the market, there's going to be a lot of product that's going to be just. There's going to be a glutton on the market. There's going to be a ton of cigars on the market.
See, now, I'm trying to put myself in a position where it's the opposite of where it was with ammunition for firearms, because I do like to go to the range, and we've seen ammunition just like skyrocket. And like, again, I wish I had a time machine and I could go back. With cigars, I'm trying not to be in that. And it sounds like now we should be investing in humidors and putting aside budget to buy cigars.
I absolutely think so. I think there's going to be a point where we are going to be able to really procure some stuff that is good stuff. I mean, I'm not talking about stuff that was just slapped into the market, but I think there's going to be some stuff, unless the predicate date changes, then that's going to change the whole game.
I gotcha.
And I'll just say this, I'm hearing some sources, we may start hearing something this week from the courts.
Interesting.
That's little birdies are telling me stuff, so stay tuned. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have, yeah.
So I'm saying now, put your investment in humidors.
So, Will, are you thinking? What are you thinking as far as the date possibly being changed, or because I don't honestly think the date's going to be changed. I think there's a better chance for an exemption.
I think there's a better chance for an exemption. I think they're going to try to change the date. I think the only reason why the date could change is because it could shut down the vape industry entirely. And that's the reason and since we're kind of all being lumped together, that may end up happening where if the vape industry somehow gets this extension to keep their stuff on the market, we may be able to ride coattails with that.
I think I'm more hopeful for the exemption, and I know that it's been a long process, but I think that there is some headway being made, and I know even just talking with our senators from Connecticut and just trying to work what's going on out there. I think there is a possibility for that. It's still remote, but it's for the premium cigar industry. That's the easiest. Especially in Connecticut. I mean, we have not only do we have retailers and individuals and consumers, we have the growers. So there's a lot at stake in Connecticut for them to want to support us, even though it's very difficult to get their support. But it's a lot of conversations have been had. So hopefully we can make progress on that. But it's with politics, who the hell knows?
Yeah, the problem is that, it's an election year right now too. So this is kind of everyone's staying away from this till after the election. So I think we may see something with the appropriations is probably going to be our next best shot at the end of the year. See what happens with that.
Stock up now. That's my advice.
Yep.
That's always good advice.
They're not going to go bad, so that's fine.
Yeah, how can you go wrong?
Worst case scenario, you can have a full humidor. It's not the end of the world. So.
Yep.
Or a couple of coolers with some beads and Bovita packs like I have. And just keep adding coolers.
Yeah, and there's a lot of companies going to keep their stuff on the market. There's a lot of companies going the SE route. So I just talked to one company actually yesterday. He's got a lot of facings, and he's not worrying about coming out what's new, but he's got enough facings where he's just going to focus on keeping this stuff on the market.
Well, awesome. Well, Chris, thank you very much for appearing on the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Your cigars are awesome, by the way.
Hey, Chris, where can folks find your cigars? I mean,
yeah, because they should buy them. I enjoyed both of them, and now do they come in boxes of 10, 5 of each? Is that?
It's boxes of 10, 5 of each.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
So right now it's pretty limited. I mean, in Rhode Island, I only have them in one store. It's at Mr. J's Havana, so that's where they're available there. I did an event at Twins in New Hampshire. Two Guys also has them. Connecticut, they're going to be a little more available just because of the.
That's where you live, right?
That's where I live. So they'll probably be in about 10 stores there. The first event that I did was at Mickey Blake's, and that was in my hometown of Southington. So they were well stocked. We had a pretty successful night there. So a lot of good feedback.
That's an iconic store in Connecticut.
Yeah. So
how about some of just your regular stuff? Some of the regular offerings. I mean, do you have a list of retailers you could find those, or are they?
I mean, the regular toppers are pretty much available in most stores. I mean, if they're not available in the store that you frequent, certainly they're readily, they're easily for them to get.
Okay. Good.
So that they're in anywhere in New England, you're going to be able to find some offering. Maybe not all 3 or 4 different lines that we have, but they're going to have something that we offer. So.
Excellent. Yeah, we get a lot of folks asking about stuff like that.
Also, the easiest way is just to ask your retailer. I mean, most good retailers, if they have a few people asking about it, at least just have them give me a call, and certainly we'll make a visit to the store and see what we can do for them. So.
And I would imagine most retailers will recognize the names. Your family's been in the business for so long. So.
I mean, our biggest market share is in New England. I mean, I have customers throughout the country, but it's you're going to find them in a lot more stores in New England than you will once you get out of New England. So.
Excellent. Chris, thank you very much
thank you, Chris.
for the cigars and coming on the show.
Thanks for being here. Great to be here.
Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening to the Stogie Geek Show. We'll see everyone next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys. When we review or report on something, we don't want there to be any guesswork. We believe the information must be accurate, and it has to be reliable. For what we review, the goal is hopefully to educate our audience, and at the same time, an equally important goal is in turn to get educated ourselves. What we want to do is earn the trust of our audience, and to do that, we ensure what we report is accurate, rumor-free, and teaser-free. The premium cigar industry is so dynamic, and every day brings something new. We wanted Cigar-Coop to be an extension of that experience, so it has to be 365 days a year. We wanted to create a true media ecosystem and integrate Cigar-Coop with the power of our Stogie Geeks programming network.